Hello, everyone. Welcome. Yes, that's right. I'm going to be talking about that movie that all of you have already seen. Uh, I know it's been a few days late, probably, for the views to actually happen, but here we are. We're doing this now. Note, this will most likely contain spoilers for the movie, so if you haven't seen it, general, quick, too long, didn't read. It's a good movie. Go see it. But if you don't care about that and you don't care about spoilers, come on, sit down. Just know that this won't actually be like a review. This is going to be just different thoughts and different aspects that I want to talk about because of this movie. Okay? So it'll be mostly about Spider-Man, but it will be about other things as well. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was, one moment, getting this out of the way of the cat so she doesn't step on the keyboard and ruin the take again. The first thing I wanted to talk about was the way that this movie is being received versus the way the Odyssey is being received versus the way, etc., etc., etc. So, I saw the Odyssey as well, and I thought it was an okay movie overall. Like, okay, it's not the greatest rendition of the Odyssey I've seen. Troy is not the greatest rendition of the Iliad I've ever seen, etc., etc. Now, but however, if you were to, watch any, program on, say, traditional television, any interview process, every single interview has something along the lines of saying, the Odyssey has, single-handedly brought, movie theaters back into relevancy. Or, it's the thing that's single-handedly saving movie theaters. And okay, like, the Odyssey is gonna make $1 billion, yeah. Spider-Man's also going to make $1 billion. Do you see anyone claiming Spider-Man is saving movie theaters single-handedly? Toy Story 5 made $1 billion. You follow the popular consciousness thoughts on that movie. Oh, it's the worst thing that since, the Nazis, it's terrible, horrible. Oh my god, it's the worst thing ever. It sucks. It's going to kill Pixar. It's going to kill Disney. And sold $1 billion. Made $1 billion. Endgame, sorry, not Endgame, Doomsday is going to make $1 billion. And even if you don't count things that haven't made $1 billion, Backrooms and Obsession also were massive hits. Massive low-budget horror hits that have made, like 700 million, 800 million? Like, there's a lot of movies this year that have actually done quite well. But yet, we don't give any of those movies credit. The only movie we give credit to is the Christopher Nolan movie. Okay, like, it's the prestige film. Anyone who's a fan of animation has seen this happen all the time. Back in '96, I believe, when Beauty and the Beast was nominated for, like, the Best Picture, the general consciousness from critics was not, oh, wow, an animated movie is really good. The general consensus was, wow, this must have been a really terrible year for movies if an animated feature is up for Best Picture. Because we all know, animated movies just suck. They're not real art. They're not real films, etc., etc. And, the same thing happens with genres as well. A comedy movie can make boatloads of money, and it's not treated as, like a serious work that required a bunch of people to all collaborate together and work really hard with lighting, rigging, sound design, scripting. None of that stuff, apparently matters in a comedy. Or, for the longest time, slasher movies, They would make a buttload of money because they were very cheap to make, and they were successful, but the companies that were making them didn't want, to be, acknowledged with that genre. That was low-class entertainment. Sorry, I did not mean to pop your head. Don't get angry. So you would have, like, all these things, and then they would start trying to, like, twist it, where it's like, this is not a horror movie. This is a thriller. And they even do it now. It's not a horror movie. It's elevated horror. So, the first thing I wanted to bring notice to was just the simple fact that people are twisting this movie's success, and honestly all the movie's successes around, just to fit their preconceived narrative. I mean, you'll still see people today going, superhero movies are over. No one cares about superhero movies. Spider-Man is making $1 billion. Spider-Man doesn't count. Is Spider-Man not a superhero movie? No, but it's one superhero movie. Superman also made like $850 million. That's going to make $1 billion very easily just on, DVD sales and Blu-ray and whatever. It's definitely made over $1 billion at this point. Superman doesn't count as well. Kind of like how Nintendo is like, oh, Nintendo's gonna go third party. Nintendo's dead. And people have been saying that for since 1984. Yeah, Nintendo's totally gonna go bankrupt and third party any minute now. Any day now. Any day now. Oh yeah, the new Pokemon game totally sucks. The 2 out of 10. It's horrible. It's garbage. No one likes Pokemon. Pokemon is dead. Pokemon then goes and sells, gangbusters and breaks all sales records, etc., etc., etc. Oh, that's another one. The Mario Galaxy movie. Mario Galaxy movie made over $1 billion. There's 5 movies that are going to make $1 billion this year. Probably maybe 6. I don't know. There can always be that big holiday movie that I'm just not thinking about. But yeah, realistically, we just have to acknowledge that it doesn't matter if you're a, quote, professional reviewer or anything like that. Everyone's just trying to twist the data to fit their own narrative that they already have. And for whatever reason, something like Spider-Man is not allowed to be seen as a success. And I know that Nolan's Odyssey is also not allowed to be seen as a success because it has Elliot Page as Sinnoh, or Sinnoh, I forget the character's name, but not Achilles. But you still have a bunch of people screaming, oh no, they've made a trans person Achilles, even though they're not Achilles, and oh no, Helen of Troy is black, and yet no, I don't care about that. Or even the one line of dialogue about our age of bronze is collapsing. A 2-second line to say in a 3.5-hour film. But that's all the discourse is about. People are just trying to twist whatever they have in order to make it fit their own preconceived narrative. And this movie is no different in that aspect. But I just wanted to point it out that, we apparently don't want to give the dead franchise of the dead genre any credibility. We don't want to accept any of the other $1 billion movies because for some reason their successes don't count because it would hurt the argument that someone's trying to make. Success is success. That's really all there is to it. The other thing that I really wanted to mention was this movie's handling of the Punisher. Because the Punisher is one of those characters that's very tricky to do. Because one question sort of lingers on the back of your mind, as, you have the guy that just, here's a low-level grunt just, trying to, in a bad place and just trying to get by in life and just has to do one job just to steal something, not even hurt anyone, just steal something just to make a buck and pay off their debt or whatever. Punisher comes out with a sawed-off shotgun and starts blowing faces off left and right. Oh, you're jaywalking? Punisher gets out a pistol and starts shooting you. Oh, you ran a red light? Punisher gets out his bazooka and starts shooting it. The Punisher is really, depending on how you write him, really is a difficult character to actually get behind. And, case in point, he started off as a villain. He was not meant to be a hero to begin with. Frank Castle, even when he's on the heroic side, is routinely considered the nut job of the hero community. He's not a good guy. He's the one that, you don't want to be. You don't want to go full Punisher. You don't want to go full Turbo there, Hello, Frankie Boo. You coming on up? Up? No? Okay. You just want pets? Okay, yeah, I give you pets. So, basically, the question simply is what makes this version of the Punisher a good guy? Why do we care about him? And it answers that question in a very simple way of what happens when Frank Castle shoots the wrong person. And this movie does a lot with that, where you see the guilt in his face and how he's, Cookie, stay away from all that. Yeah. Yeah, good boy. Yeah. So you see what Frank Castle does when he shoots the wrong person. How does he react? What does he do to try and make it better? What is Frank Castle trying to do the right thing look like? And not just, oh, I try to do the right thing, so I shoot first, ask questions later. No. What happens when Frank Castle actually knows he's screwed up? And, what does he do to try and make amends? This movie answers that question, or at least it answers this question for this version of The Punisher. So I would say this is probably the best written Frank Castle has been in a long time. Granted, I have not read many of the recent Punisher comics, but there's a history of Frank Castle being written far, far worse, to the point of where it's like, really, this man is not the hero. Like, the villains he's tracking down are more moral than he is. And that's really weird when the people he's tracking down are like literal Nazis, So Frank Castle usually is very difficult to get into. This movie makes Frank Castle far more relatable, understandable, and it does a really good job in justifying why he is a hero. So I feel like that is a very good thing that this movie does. Now, with that being said, Punisher's fan base online most of the time, I could do without them. But, the running joke is that the Punisher's fan base would be the first people the Punisher would shoot and kill, if the Punisher actually existed in the real world. But, that's neither here nor there. And last but not least, this movie is... Has anyone ever heard the phrase that every James Bond movie is just an overcorrection to the previous James Bond movie? Like, oh, we went to the moon in Moonraker. Ooh, let's tone it down some. Oh, you know what? We got too boring. Let's bring back some of the jokes and quips and funniness and, whatever. So on and so forth. Now, that's not true of every James Bond movie, but it's a pattern that has repeated enough times that people sort of just, say it's true. Like, every other Star Trek movie is bad. It's happened enough times that it's, that people sort of just go with it. This movie is very much a correction for the bloated, over-the-top spectacle of previous superhero movies. The end stakes are not world-ending. It's not a story about, the cataclysm coming to Earth and we must save the day and do all this. No. The people in immediate danger in the ending is a city. Or it's a borough of New York. It's not even all of New York. One borough is in danger, So the scale is smaller. And the fight is smaller as well. I mean, I know you've seen the pictures of, the Hulk popping up and whatnot. The Hulk fight scene is like 2 minutes tops. And it's really just, Spider-Man going, Banner, stop, wake up, I don't want to hurt you. You don't want to hurt me. So on and so forth. And the final fight of the movie is against a bunch of mooks, a bunch of goons, a bunch of henchmen. It's the Hand. It's the Putty Patrol. The final fight is against, the jobbers. That's it. It's just Spider-Man versus a couple of guys with swords. That's it. That's all it is. It's not a big spectacle. Because the big emotional crux of the story is not the fight scene. It's not a 30-minute action set piece. The crux of the story is Spider-Man, letting... screw it, I said didn't need to worry about spoilers. Letting Jean Grey get into his mind and go and say, hi, this is my fear that I'm afraid of. This is, who I'm trying to be. Even in the big fight scene when they ask the question of, like, are you Spider-Man or are you Peter Parker? The answer he comes to is he can be both. And that's actually a really good message as well. Like, the story is, we've seen so many times Peter Parker be miserable because he has to be Spider-Man. Peter Parker and the burden of, that responsibility where he just twists the with great power comes great responsibility. Twists those words into the way that he just puts everything on himself. And this movie is like, no, you don't have to do that. You can have a work-life balance. Like, that's a message you don't see often in films, We idolize the person that sacrifices everything to do this, because in the last shot of the movie, the thing that you lost just comes back and goes, I'm sorry, I recognize you as a great person that did great things because of your greatness. No. This movie doesn't do that. This movie is about Peter Parker learning to accept that he has to, that he has to slow down, that he has to, it's okay to be afraid, and you can't be just burying yourself in work to get around the things that you're afraid of. You can't get around your guilt or your shame or your fears or anything just by burying yourself in work. It's a personal story. The climax is a personal stake. It's not the end of the world. It's not an alien invasion. It's just a personal story. And I know I probably deleted all the videos previously of me mentioning stuff like this, but I felt the same way when watching the first Black Panther movie. It's like, okay, I see what we're doing here. It's a conflict of ideas. It's, Malcolm X versus Martin Luther King. I get it. I had one person, explain it to me that, oh, no, it's not really Malcolm X versus Martin Luther King. It's, American black versus African black, and there's a whole thing that goes way over my head because I'm just not part of that culture. But either way, it's an idea exchange. And the hero, before the big fight scene, is going like, I understand what you were trying to say now. I get it. We will open up our borders. We will do more to help people abroad. Okay, cool. The crisis is over now. We've come to an understanding. Wait, why are we having a big giant fight scene? Because Killmonger has to go and say, oh, no, I'm not going to do that now. Even though that's what I was saying I wanted to do, and that's what all my actions were doing, and I now want to rule the world because I'm a megalomaniac monster. Ha ha ha. Okay, we had a fight scene because we had to have a fight scene. We had to have the big climactic battle of two people in black suits inside a cave. So we got black suit in a black background, and I was watching this in 3D, so everything was darker to begin with because of the 3D conversion. Oh yeah, I know there were little purple zips going across and little gold zips going across to signify which suit was which, but it was not easy to tell what was happening in that fight scene. And, there's a few other movies where it's the same way, where it's like, really, why is this having a big giant fight scene at the end? It's having the big giant fight scene at the end because it's expected. But because it's expected, it doesn't have to be. Like I said, the final fight isn't against Scorpion. It's not against any of, like, the named villains that, we see in a montage. There wasn't, oh God, was it Hammerhead? No, God, who was the guy from Black Lightning? Tombstone. It wasn't Tombstone. It wasn't Scorpion. It wasn't even really a fight against Jean. Well, technically, it's a fight against people Jean Grey mind controlled, but it's a fight against the Hand. Okay? It's the Putty Patrol. It's, the Jobbers. It's people that was established Spider-Man already beat, prior to the movie existing, And that was opening flashback montage stuff. So yeah, I do like the fact that this is a movie that does something different with the superhero genre, and it doesn't have to be a world-ending cataclysm to be the end point. And I wish more superhero movies did that. That they could be a story about something other than saving the world from a giant laser beam in the sky, you know? Because once that happens, you start going, well, why aren't the Avengers here? Etc., etc. And you know, so that's what I like. I like that this was more self-contained, more like this. It was the for your eyes only versus, you know, the previous movie's Moonraker. Not that you know, the previous Spider-Man movie was bad. I love seeing essentially the Sinister Six just going around and, you know, all three Spider-Men doing all Spider-Man-y things and whatnot. It was a good thing. Heck, I like Moonraker. I mean, it's like one of the Bondiest Bond movies that ever did Bond. You know, hell, I like Die Another Day. Now that is the Bondiest Bond movie that ever did Bond. So I'm not above having, you know, just cheap popcorn flick going, yay, this is awesome, look at the explosions, oh, he's surfing a tidal wave, oh, that's great, I love this. Popcorn, you know, I don't mind that. But I do appreciate that this is, you know, distinctively them going, no, 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 we're not going for sheer spectacle. This is a story that's actually about something. And it focused on that. And it came to a conclusion and gave you an answer. And you can say, even though everything that happened in Peter Parker's life, you can say that he's leaving this movie in a better spot than when he started. And that's good. You can give people, you can give people a happy ending, and not have it defeat the point of Spider-Man. You know, you can have Peter Parker get married. You can have him have a child. You can have all sorts of things with Peter Parker, and it won't ruin the relatability aspect of him. Okay? Like, this movie, you know, he's back on his way to regaining his friendships at the end. There's a back on the way of getting MJ, back on the way to do this, back on the way to do that, so on and so forth. We will go along for the ride, okay? Like, the movie just has to be good, and this movie was good. So, that's my overall thoughts here. So yeah, share, discuss, comment. It's probably too late for this video to get any, like, actual traction because, much like a Reddit post, if you're not within the first 2 responses in the first 30 seconds, there's no point in actually commenting on the situation. Like, which means I really do like the old message board forums better. Like, I would much rather have a GameFAQs post than a Reddit post. Just because, you know, you can see sequential order, what's happening in the thing, and it's not just overloaded with just the first meme joke getting 1,000, you know, points or whatever, just because it's the first meme joke that isn't a topic of discussion. You don't have to wade through levels of that just to get something. So yeah. But then again, I hate all social media in general, so, you know, here I am on YouTube, social media, woo! Please like and subscribe. Anyway, that's that. I'm gonna now work on the book some more, and I got a couple of videos of short form coming out for you guys as well. But yeah, outside of that, see you in a few, whenever the next topic of discussion is. Later, bye bye.